Thank you for coming. This is not the correct one. Hold on a second.
True. Yeah, so
There we go.
English is a different class.
Obviously.
There's a lot of activity. Wait now.
Psychology class.
Hold on.
Technical
Technical difficulties. It's now not working.
And it means
There we go.
These are dirty. I haven't done that.
Ours is in place.
Stretch.
How's your class, by the way? Oh, you just had.
Oh yeah, cultural geography. It's all right.
David ran away, so. For whatever reason.
Taking notes already. You want to see the future.
No, just.
That's like. I know there's this poem. Like, if you close this one eye, you can see the future. But if you close the other eye, you can see the past.
Those both teach I want to see what. How sweet.
There. Very sure. So if you got blind, like that sucks.
If you can see into the future and stuff, you actually have to be able to see.
If you can see into the future, I'm in the present.
Aha. That's not right either, but that's okay. You at least get to see something. It's got the opposite screen for some reason. Okay. So this is about composing, and composing is the first stage in what we might call the writing process. Going through a writing process would be like composing, writing, revising, editing would be the three very basic steps. Under composing, I'm going to put a lot of things under this umbrella. So I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to define composing, talk about what keeps us from composing, talk about how do we get started writing, and how to keep going once we've started. Composing literally means to create. And when we think of a composition, it's something that is a whole creation. It is done. However, we need to go through the process of composing in order to get to that composition. We cannot just end with a whole piece of writing or expect that that whole piece of writing is going to happen really quickly. There are many things that keep us from writing. Everybody knows about writer's block, right? So writer's block is the process of not having any ideas in our head to write. But that is not the only reason that keeps us from writing. Oftentimes we have a number of other things that keep us from writing. We might have an idea, but we're not really sure of the assignment. So yesterday I gave a presentation on how to read an assignment sheet. You can always look that up in a previous, we have an archive of previous workshops. And so you can get a little bit more information about how to pick apart an assignment. If you don't understand an assignment sheet, you should ask your instructor. Push back on the instructor and be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. That's one thing that keeps us from composing. Another one is time. We haven't given ourselves enough time, or because of our life because of other classes, because of work, or whatever it is, we just simply don't have the time to write, and that keeps us from writing. Fatigue, busy lives. School gives you not just physical fatigue, but mental fatigue. You're just overly tired. You might have ideas to write. I don't know about you guys, but I try to sit down to write like 11, 12 o'clock at night, and I'm just so exhausted that no matter how much I might want to write, I have to sleep. And so that fatigue keeps us from composing. And then distractions. You sit down, you're ready to write, you've carved out the time, and life is getting in the way. You've got Facebook, you've got Instagram, you've got TV, whatever it is, you've got all these distractions keeping you from actually composing. So what do? How do we get started? First of all is to carve out enough time. Be honest with yourself. When you are given an assignment sheet, honestly tell yourself how much time that assignment is going to take you. And if you think it's going to take you 2 hours, give yourself an extra half hour. It's 2.5. Be honest. Be honest and say, you know what, this summary is going to take me 2.5 hours. This major assignment that is 1,500 words, that's going to take me 10 hours. So carve out enough time. Be honest with how long it takes to write. And then carve out blocks of time, especially for your bigger pieces of writing. You can't expect to sit down and get it done all at one time, right? I see you shake your head. No, you cannot do it all at once. You need to give yourself enough blocks of time and enough breaks in between. So if it's going to take you 10 hours, then give yourself 2 3-hour blocks and a 4-hour block, whatever it's going to take to break it up. So make sure you carve out enough time and you carve out blocks of time, and then remove distractions. When you actually have the time and you sit down, I will actually turn off the internet on my computer. I can't open a browser. I cannot say, oh, I'll just check Facebook for 1 second. No, turn off the internet. I turn off the internet on my phone. I can get a phone call if there's an emergency with my kids, but I'm not gonna look on Instagram. I'm not gonna look on Facebook, internet, whatever, cannot attach to that. Whatever it takes for you to close out the distractions. Make sure that you're in a comfortable place, have plenty of lighting, all of those things. You're ready and in an atmosphere where you're ready to write. And then make sure you understand the assignment. If you don't, then ask questions, ask your classmates, make sure that you are following the assignment, because I will tell you, it is disheartening to write something that you think is the assignment because you thought this happened to me one time in a philosophy class, you thought you understood the assignment, you didn't go back and look at the assignment because it was in a different notebook, it was at home, whatever it is. So you sit down, you spend the 3 hours in the library that you had to write, you write something, and then you find out that that's not what was asked of you. You wrote a summary and it was an analysis. You wrote an informative assignment and it was an argumentative paper. Whatever it is, because you didn't look back at the assignment, you've now wasted this time. So we want to make sure that we get started in the right direction. And then pre-write. There are many things you can do to pre-write. You can make an outline. You can sit down and brainstorm. You can do a concept map. You can free write, which means just to write and not stop writing. Pre-writing helps us to get those ideas down. And when we think we have writer's block, or when we're still trying to get those ideas to formulate, pre-writing helps us to get something down on paper. Just the act of starting to write will help us continue to write. Another thing that you can do, and David gave a workshop at 1 on this, something that you can do in the future, you can look at this workshop as well. It's called the 3-minute summary. We'll have one called the 6-minute essay, but it teaches you how to use a cell phone in order to speak, use Siri, to talk into your phone, your paper, and then revise it from there. So that's another way to do pre-writing, just to get ideas down. And then just write. Just get started and write. Remember that it doesn't need to be perfect. What it does need to be is done. So just getting started writing and letting those ideas kind of come out. And that's what we need to do to keep going. We just write. Write it, try your very best. You know a deadline's approaching. Do the very best that you can do with the time that you have. And don't aim for perfection. You should be revising everything that you write. Every single professional writer revises. Stephen King is one that's famous for talking about the number of drafts that he goes through and the number of pieces of paper that he throws away. You can look it up online, Stephen King and his process. And he will talk to you about how professional writers do not write perfectly the first time. They go through multiple drafts, lots of ideas. They go in different directions. We don't aim for perfection the first time. What we aim for is completion, getting something down. Once it's down, we can go back and make decisions about revision. And then, so that's the next one. Remember that you can revise. And soon there'll be a revision workshop, so we can talk more about revision at that time. And then remember that editing happens later. One reason, especially students whose first language isn't English, one reason that a lot of us stop is because we're trying to get perfect sentences. We want our grammar to be perfect, our style to be perfect. We want to make sure that we don't have any misspelled words, that all of our punctuation is right, every single sentence we write. But if we do that, we're stopping. We're stopping the ideas. So the part of our brain that uses ideas and the part of our brain that fixes grammar and mechanics, two different parts of the brain. So you're switching back and forth, you're interrupting the flow of ideas. Remember that editing can happen at the end. You might throw away that paragraph anyway. So why spend 30 minutes perfecting the style of a paragraph if you're not sure it's going to fit into the final paper anyway? So remember that at the end you can edit. Right now you want to get your ideas down in the order that you want them, and you want them to just be out on paper. And then you can revise, and then you can edit. So you just want to keep going. So this workshop very quickly talked about composing, what composing is, how to get started, what keeps us from composing, how to get started, and how to just keep going. What I'd like you to do now is practice getting started, and everybody has a piece of paper, you have a computer, so this is great. What I want you to do is you can decide some sort of this traditional pre-writing activity. Brainstorm list, concept map, outline, free write, however it is you want to get some ideas down. I want you to write for 4 minutes, describe your current composing process, and then discuss what you might do differently after being given the tips in this presentation. And have fun, try something different. If you always free write, do a concept map, do a brainstorm to get some ideas down. So again, the prompt, describe your current composing process and then discuss what you might do differently after being given the tips in this presentation. Okay, tell me about what you chose to do.
I free roam.
You free wrote?
Yeah.
And how did you start it off? Did you?
I started with a story of like how I wrote in high school.
Okay.
So I started with talking about how in my whole writing process in high school and how it went and how I felt about it. And then I took it from there and led it into my modern day. Like,
Okay.
flash
So you
forward
were able to
content.
start right into the topic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anybody else do anything differently?
I basically bulletize my work like literally one step at a time.
Awesome. So you thought, I'm going to do this as first I do this. So actually do it like a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Not so much 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just I do this, and right after that, then I do this. I just
Okay.
think about what I do.
What your steps are. Awesome. Did you two free write?
Sort of just like outlined my ideas. Like I just wrote down my writing process, and then the second part of the question, I just clustered a bunch of like points for the outline, I guess, and I can use these tips, I guess.
Okay, so like a really informal outline.
Yeah.
That's kind of my favorite, personal favorite. I don't like formal outlines, but I do informal outlines. Kind of like these are the parts, and these are the pieces I want in these chunks. And then I go back later and organize all that into.
Yeah, that's what I do.
That's what you do? Awesome. What did you do?
I did a free write. I just described my process of how to prepare for the assignment, what I do prior to even writing the assignment, and then how I organize my thoughts before I even start writing the assignment.
So you're a thinker before you write. That's another thing that I do. I do a lot of housework as I let things stew. I mean, even with this presentation, I had the entire presentation in my head for the last 2 days and actually got today, sat down and put everything in here. But I let it stew. Kind of like when you're busy, that's one thing you can do. Just let it go, let it stew. And what did you do?
I free roam. Basically, like usually whenever I start writing, I have like a thinking process. So usually I'm like the last one to start writing. But usually I take time to think about what I'm gonna write, and then once I get an idea in my head, I start just writing it.
Just writing it?
Yeah.
A lot of very creative people do that. That's how I used to write poetry. I haven't written poetry in a long time. I don't really feel like I have the time. But I would think about it until I could no longer contain it. And then I would sit down and be like, I've got so many ideas in my head, and just at that point, get it out. It's kind of like, everything just comes out, but you think about it for so long. We're gonna do an artifact-based practice, and this will be relevant to all of you since you're all in my class. This is the ESC 1101 assignment for project 1. And what I want you to do, now this is something that everybody else won't see until next week. So you get a preview of this assignment because I'm gonna put some other things together before I actually give it to everybody. And I want you to read G and think about G before you start thinking about using G to analyze. But you all get a preview. And what I want you to do is, remember one of the things I said was that you need to come up with an honest plan. An honest plan for how you might approach an assignment. What I want you to do is glance over this assignment, kind of think about how long is it, what does it involve, and then come up with an honest plan. You know that it is due at the end of week 4 of this module. This is the end of week 1. So 3 weeks from now, you have 3 weeks. In that time, what kinds of things might you need to do? How much time might you need to carve out in order to be able to compose this piece? So I'll let you do that. Give you about a minute and a half to come up with a plan. Okay, so what's in your plans?
First off, watch the video without reading the instructions or anything, just so you know what's in it. Secondly, read the instructions. Then go through the video and pause it so you can write down all those little details. You can have them off the top of your head, and you'll also be able to know what information is coming up and notice things you missed the first time.
Awesome. So how about that process, the process of choosing a TED Talk video, watching it multiple times to take all the notes, to get an inventory of the rhetorical and discourse features of it. What would you say how long should that take?
TED Talk videos are pretty short, right? Like, you only want them about less than 15 minutes.
Less than 15 minutes.
So take about half. So for me, I usually am only going to need to watch it twice, so half an hour.
Okay, but you said stop it as well and write stuff down, so 45 minutes?
45 minutes.
Okay, so that's only if you watch it only twice. Let's say you watch it 3 times, an hour. So there's an hour of time, right?
Mhm.
So gotta carve out that time, but you also have to choose it. Hour and 15 minutes. And if you're somebody that takes a while to choose the right video and you have to watch multiple videos, it's now to 2 hours, right? I mean, it just depends. You could find the right video right off the bat. Last semester, I had a student spend a week choosing his video. So, you know, how much time, really being honest about that time. If you already have something in mind, then it might be a little bit quicker. So that's one of the things though, is that's a step. Thank you for starting with that step. You can't just sit down to write. There's all this stuff you have to do to analyze before you can even write. And then, you know, G and CRESS are 2 texts that you have to make sure you understand before you even get to that process as well. So you have to do all of that. What else did you write down?
Just to like reread the readings to fully grasp the meaning of discourse, and then watch a TED Talk, you know, that resonates with me, I guess, for full understanding, and then like watch for the message and rewatch for the visual cues and just take notes and use the notes to craft thesis and get the support points and just go from there.
I like this. You said, I'm going to watch it for this, the thesis. I'm going to watch it for visual cues. So if you know which discursive devices or rhetorical devices you're looking for, you can choose to watch each time for that lens. We're looking for that thing. That's cool. Awesome. Any of you 3 want to share what you would do? How much time do you think the whole process would take? Beginning to end.
The whole project?
Mm-hmm.
5 to 6 hours.
I was thinking 3 to 4.
Of the entire project, including writing the paper and the
Peer
planning
reviewing
and the
and-
fine. I would say a total of maybe 14 hours.
That's much more fair. I'd say upwards 15 to 20.
Okay. I don't know what you're thinking, Josh.
But if you think about, you need to do all of this prep stuff, but then you're writing how many drafts? Right, so for everything that you do in 1101 and 1143, it's 2 drafts. You post a draft on your wiki, even your summaries. Then you peer review, you spend all the time peer reviewing, you revise it, post a second rough draft, peer review that, so all of that time that you're spent online, peer reviewing and getting feedback, and then you're revising. And then once it's all together, you have to edit and make it look what it's supposed to look like before you turn it in. So it takes time. It takes a lot of planning. There's a lot of steps that need to be done. So again, going back to one of the things that keeps us from composing is that when we actually sit down, there's all the nerves and everything. Oh my goodness, do I have enough time? Have I carved out enough time? And that often creates that writer's block. If we can make sure that we have enough time, give us a relaxed environment, then we can start writing. And once we get started, usually once you've gotten started, you can get it done. It's just getting to that point, getting started so that you can compose. So thanks for coming to the workshop. I'll hang around if you have more questions. Of course, I'll talk more about this assignment sheet in class and online through announcements. Thank you.
I don't know about you guys, but I thought those posters back there were actual people. It's like,